Welcome to this episode of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. This is the third part of the special series called the 35 trillion opportunity in the USA. To tell us more about this opportunity in detail, that is about the greatest wealth transfer in history in the USA, let's go to the man himself who is watching this space as closely as possible to profit those who would want to profit from him. We are joined by David Walters, founder and CEO of Steam Powered Consulting. Welcome to the show, David.
AJ, thank you. It's a pleasure as always.
Thank you, David. Thank you for joining in. So, can you tell us, David, how can one optimize their business to make use of this opportunity?
Sure, absolutely. If you recall, in the last episode, we talked about the strategies that we should implement to increase the value of the business. And we showed that by increasing revenue, increasing profit, improving customer satisfaction, reducing non-conformance, and implementing professional management, we can increase the value of the business by as much as a factor of 10x. I think we came up with 997% in the we worked through. Now that's applicable to the business owner, and obviously, any business owner would love to increase the value of their exit by a factor of 10. But obviously, we're also talking to the potential investor, and the other way we can leverage this opportunity for the investor is by going in with a strategy to actually do a roll up and to grow a much bigger consortia of businesses that then would sell for a much higher multiplier. And as I said, the sweet spot is greater than 10 million in revenue, greater than 20% EBIT. So what I would propose is that this week we'll do a quick review of the techniques we talked through last week, but I'll spend the majority of the time talking about the more advanced strategies to go for that high leverage, high value exit. So if that's okay with you, that's what I propose.
Okay.
Thank you. So as we said, we're at a crucial point when something begins to change. And one of the latest pieces of information we had is that the multiplier. So I've been watching the EBITDA multipliers, and for an engineering company in 2021, the average was 8.22 times EBITDA. In Q1 of 2022, this has jumped to 12.6. So a 47% increase in business valuation in Q1 of 2022. So the market's definitely taking off. It's definitely heating up. So this is an ideal time for an investor to jump in, get the business, go through that process of optimization, go through the M&A process, build the high value product, and then when it's ready, offer it to a private equity or a family office. So that's the part of the system I want to focus on today.
Okay.
So let me go into the presentation. And as we said in previous presentations, we said that there are several ways you can benefit. You can optimize your own business, and as we showed last week, you can get a 10x improvement simply by working on your own business. For people who are interested in actually making this a business, they can become an exit investor, or they can co-consult with me. I'm always happy to partner with people who want to work on opportunities. But the two really that we're looking at here are the business flipping and the roll up. And these are the two that I think would be most applicable for an Indian investor: the high value roll up or the business flipping. And obviously, the business flipping would also be appropriate for the owner of the existing business to optimize it and then sell out. But there are techniques for the investor how they can actually get into the business flipping process with no money out of pocket. And that's another strategy that we can help people learn. So today we'll focus on really preparing for that high value PE buyout. That's what I want to focus on.
Right.
Okay. So if you remember last time, we talked about why should we systematize? Well, systematization is the very first step in implementing professional management. And as we said, if you build a growth engine so you can predictably grow your sales and you implement the business operating system, your business is then scalable. You're not going to be restricted in either growth or the ability to fulfill the sales that you make. through business inefficiency. So you're ready to scale, which is the first step in professional management.
Okay.
Okay. Once you get into that process, once you're able to scale, we now want to be looking at, as you go through that process, what do we need to do for the high profit business exit strategy? And it's a 7-step process. So the first thing is to come up with a strategy. How do you want to do this? Then we go through the 6 optimization efforts. Maximize revenue. Again, this is another iteration of the predictable growth engine, but this is where we're talking about building that Parthenon of profit. Maximize profit, reduce your costs, and look for opportunities to take waste and inefficiency out of the business. Improve customer experience. Then look at the business model, and I'll go into this in more detail, because the way you model your business or the model that you go after can have dramatic effects on your profitability. And then business structure and M&A expansion. These really two go together, because it is appropriate to restructure your business for optimum performance in preparation for the M&A phase, which is the ultimate goal, to maximize revenue before the buyout.
Okay.
So just to run quickly, we saw these slides last week, but this just very quickly talks about the benefits of becoming scalable. So initially, with an owner-centric business that's not professionally managed, $2 million of revenue, 15% margin, we would be looking at an SDE of 300,000. With the latest multipliers, that would give the business a valuation of 3.7 million, which is an increase of over 400%. So the difference between being an owner-centric business and being a professionally managed business can be as much as 400%, without any increase in sales, without any increase in business revenue, just by implementing that professional management, because the buyer is comfortable that the business will survive once the owner has left. So that's the first step. That gets us ready to embark on the high value exit. Now we go into these breakout strategies. We talked about this last time. Maximize the revenue. So build this profit Parthenon. Use a predictable growth engine to develop multiple sales channels. And if you can do that to create 26% year-on-year growth over 3 years, that's 100% increase in revenue. That 100% increase in revenue would give your EBITDA, would bring your EBITDA up to 600,000, which means that the business is now valued at 7.5 million. So that's 840% increase since you did the first baseline analysis. Then we look at profit maximization. And again, we talked about minimizing non-conformance costs. And we showed how dramatic, by simply reducing our non-conformances by 50%, going from 4% to 2%, we can take our business now up to 8.5 million. So adding $800,000, or sorry, not adding, recovering $800,000 of profit that we would have lost to non-conformance at a 12x multiplier, adds $1 million in value to the business. Okay. So again, this is an internal function. It's one that the business owner can execute if he so wishes. Then we come to the last of the internal strategies, and this is where we talked about the Net Promoter Score, and we showed that with a 7% increase in NPS, we see, and this is research done by the LSE, the London School of Economics, a 7% increase in NPS score gives us a 1% increase in revenue. Okay, so good customer experience includes social proof advocacy and referrals. So that's another benefit of having good customer satisfaction. And then if we do this analysis, assume that we have an NPS of 0 and we take it to 28, that would increase our revenue by 4%. That adds $32,000 of profit, which then increases us to 8.9 million. So that's where we get our 10x. And if you think about it, all of these improvements we've done have been internal to the company. We haven't had to do any major external strategic acquisitions. This is all internal improvements to our existing business. So this would be where a business owner could say, okay, I'm happy. I've got this far. I now know where I need to get to. I've got a 10x improvement on my exit value. That's enough for me. I'm ready to exit. And now we would then go into the process of getting the business ready to sell. So this is where, for an existing business owner, they could say, I've done enough. I've got the value I'm looking for. I now need to go and put this business on the market and negotiate the sale. But for those who want to become investors in this program, then this is where we need to get more strategic. So that the rest of this presentation will look at the strategic things that an investor would want to do to really maximize the value of their program. So
Right.
we spoke before about working in your business. So when somebody first starts a business, they're working in the business, they have a job, they're effectively their own employee. We spoke about Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth, which teaches people how to become a business owner and work on the business. And now what we want to do for the investor is to show them how, or the business owner who wants to go the whole way. But for an investor, this is how we would be working above the business or working over the business to maximize the asset value in preparation for a high value sale. So we've all heard of the hockey stick principle. This is commonly taught in many, many business schools. And it says when you first start out, you're tinkering around, you're trying to get sorted out, you're trying to get your traction. And this maps across to the entrepreneur's life cycle that we spoke about. But then you start to get that growth. So at this point is where we'd say you'd be implementing your predictable growth engine. You would then get that growth surge. And if you implement your business operating system, you will not be limited by back-end inefficiency. So this should continue in a straight line and life should be wonderful. This has been taught for years and years and years in business schools. This is the standard model that most organizations look to. Unfortunately, recent research by the McKinsey Institute has shown that this is actually incorrect. So they have done research, and what they've showed is that the reality is people who plan on the hockey stick, so they say, okay, this year we're going to get the breakout, and they have a strategic plan that will take them through 2011. They don't make it, so they plan for the next year. We're going to get the breakout next year. Then they plan for the year after that. Then they plan for the year. Then they plan for the year. Now, if you look at this looks remarkably like that flat line part of the entrepreneur's journey, tending to that downward death spiral that actually becomes the legacy and the death spiral. And you can see what's happening. The business owner is struggling. He's been trying now for 4 or 5 years to hit that breakout with his hockey stick. He hasn't achieved the breakout, and he's now getting frustrated. He's doing the same thing over and over again. So he's becoming a legacy player, but it's beginning to have a detrimental effect. And this will actually then accelerate through the legacy, zombie, and eventually into the death spiral. So what McKinsey said is that the hockey stick is a nice model to start with, but in reality, it's no way for long-term business growth. So what the McKinsey company came up with was new research called the strategy beyond the hockey stick. And what they said in this strategy is actually business looks like this. 60% of businesses are flatlined, okay? And the reality is they're all going to sit on this flat line somewhere. 20% of businesses actually manage to achieve the breakout, okay? And then 20% of businesses are in that death spiral. Okay. So this is what the McKinsey company came up with. And this ties in very nicely with what Jim Collins wrote about in his book, From Good to Great. He said, to get this breakout, you need to be doing 10% better than your market on a 3-year basis. So if your performance is 10% better than the average for your niche, then you are a good to great company. You're in this breakout. And this is where the hyper growth and the hyper value comes. So what we need to be thinking about is not how do I get this hockey stick to work, but how do I get this breakout to work? And that's what we talk about in the high value exit strategy. We want to be focusing and strategizing to get that breakout to give us this high value product.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this last time, but this is a great example of what we just saw. So here, what could Jeff Bezos do? His flat line was still impressive. His flat line was still bringing in $5 million worth of profit. Sorry, $5 billion worth of profit, but he wanted more. So what he said, and again, if you look at it at the time, this was 2006. he had Amazon, he was shipping packages, but he wanted to get that breakout. So rather than do more of what he was already doing, he did something very different. He created two new products, Fulfilled by Amazon and Amazon Web Services. As I showed you in this Business Week report, this was 2006, Wall Street didn't want him to go this way. Wall Street said, the analysis from Wall Street was, it's a risky bet, just stay shipping, stay mind. I think the statement was they would prefer it if he just minded the store, and they didn't want him to make the risky bet. Well, did it pay off for him? His net sales for Amazon in the US was 146 billion. He was making $7 billion worth of profit, so about 5% profit on his US operation. His global business was doing 66 billion, and he was making a $2 billion loss. So when you combine his package service, he's doing $212 billion worth of sales for $5 billion worth of profit. So his profit rate is about 2.5%. He then set up Amazon Web Services, which generated $26 billion worth of revenue. Okay, so about 10% of what he was doing through his package business. But if you look at the profitability, his Amazon Web Services was running at 7.4 billion. Okay, so that's almost 25%. That's between 20 and 25%. So here, from $212 billion worth of revenue, he was bringing in $5 billion worth of profit. From $26 billion worth of revenue, he was bringing in 7.4. So that's a huge boost. So that's how you get onto that hyper growth part of the curve. You don't keep tinkering around with what you've been doing in the past. You need some sort of strategic breakout. And that's the next part of this strategy for those investors who really want to go to push to that $10 million worth of ARR, to push for the PE buyout. These are the strategies that you need to think about. So the first thing is you need to look at your business structure. And if necessary, you need to restructure the business to give you the ability to protect your assets, but then sell off those assets that you have or create new opportunities. And each of these then, you can be very flexible. So you have the holding company, you have the main company, which is the place you start. This is owned by whoever the team is. So yourself, you can own it as a trust or a corporation. You may have business partners, you may have investors. These all own the holding company. From the holding company, you then look at the assets that you have, and you look at how can you separate them to maximize value. So in this case, you have protected your intellectual property as a separate entity. So you could sell off parts of the business and still control the IP. And I know that when I worked in the corporate world, one of the things, we were part of the multinational. When we got taken over, they bought out our IP, and then every year we had to pay back to license that IP. So it was another revenue stream for the parent company for us to license back the intellectual property. You have your primary business opportunity, which is what you're using as your springboard for this vertical roll-up. And then you can have your shared services, okay? So media, financial team, sales team, human resources, all of these go into a shared services company that can then serve all of your other opportunities. So this is a way of optimizing your profit. You don't need a sales team, a financial team, a HR team, an admin team for each of your opportunities. These just become straight operating companies served by your shared services group, okay? The shared services group is also a profit center because they're getting paid from all of these other subordinate opportunity companies. So you can call these SPVs, special project vehicles, companies set up specifically to exploit a new opportunity. So this one could be a new product line, but because it's a new product line, it might have more liability. So to protect the primary business, you spin it off as a separate company. You could have, you could be going into a new territory. So you create an opportunity business specifically geared up for that new territory. And then you can have your profit maximizer company, which is a high value company that these can all feed into. But each of these can have their own cap tables, they can have their own board of advisors. So you can spin off all of these extra potentially higher risk, higher value businesses without threatening your primary business and without threatening the value that you have in your holding company yourself. So this is one of the things that an investor would want to consider in preparing for that high value roll up. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the phase called business structuring.
Okay.
Then, as we talked about, and you've seen this one before, this is the M&A acquisition. So this is the first step in deciding where you want to go on the M&A journey. And we said start with the E to P exercise. Look at your top 7 expenses and see if you can turn them into profit centers. And if you can turn them into profit centers, are they worth spinning up as separate businesses that you could then sell to other people? So would it sell and can it become recurring revenue? So, for example, we talked about on the previous slide, we looked at the shared services company. So payroll, lead generation, event management, content creation could all come from that shared services company. And you could sell that. That's a whole new profit line from what you were already seeing as a cost center in the original business. Inventory management you could sell off as a new product, and then fulfillment and facilities. All of these could be set up as separate profit centers to maximize the value of your business. So rather than having something as a sunk asset that's just a liability or a sunk cost, you can actually turn them into active profit centers. And the restructuring model that we discussed earlier is a prerequisite to this stage. And then just to give you an idea, looking at that sweet spot. So if somebody's considering going into the M&A process, this top end strategy for the roll up. The goal is to get to $10 million of annual recurring revenue and greater than 20% EBITDA. When you get to that point, you become very attractive to the private equity companies, to the family offices, and this is where you can see. And as I said, when the ARR increases beyond 10 million, the valuation factor, I looked at this for engineering companies, in the 3 to 10 million range, the valuation, these are 2021 figures, the average valuation was 7.3. When you go beyond 10 million, it jumped to 10.7. So 47% increase in valuation because you are now a more valuable asset. You've obviously got things right because you've been able to get to $10 million of revenue, and it's a much more valuable business for the marketplace to consider. So these are the things that you would want to look at if you are coming in as an investor and you want the high value, you want to exploit the high value opportunities. So how can we leverage this? Well, if you are an existing business owner, then I would recommend the business flipper model. So you have a business, so you have your own business, you're in that 1 to 5 million range, optimize it, resell it, and you can get a 10x improvement in valuation just by working on optimizing the existing business. If you want to approach this as a business flipper, same process. You look for a business in the 1 to 5 million annual revenue range, optimize it, resell it, and you can actually, there are strategies that we have for buying businesses with no money out of pocket. So that could be something of interest to somebody who is looking to become a business flipper. And then the third alternative, and again, this is for the serious investor, would be the roll up. So you buy a business, you create that operating company, and then you use that as the springboard to buy other businesses and optimize them to give you that high value resale. So achieving a minimum of $10 million of annual recurring revenue, better than 20% EBITDA, and then you have a high value exit for about 3 years worth of work. So the 3 ways that we can use this strategy: for an existing business owner, optimize your own business by working on your business, and you can achieve a 10x improvement, but you don't need to go through all the hassle of the M&A, of the high value, high risk play. If you're an investor, you may want to come in quick, buy a business, optimize it, and flip it. So the business flipper would be an opportunity there. Or if you want to be a longer term investor, then the vertical roll-up. Buy a business, use that as the basis for absorbing other businesses that are sensible to buy into your group, and then get that value beyond 10 million, and then the final value springboards, as I said, by about 47%. So those are the ways that the system that we've talked about for the last 3 weeks can be leveraged to increase the value for both the existing business owner and a potential external investor. So, so that's everything I had. Are there any questions, AJ? Was there anything that you want to go into a bit deeper?
Yeah, all I can say is that there is a lot of money, and how is it that American business owners are not able to see that their business are on the verge of getting wiped out if they are not able to take decisions of bringing in professional people, bringing in value investors into their business at the right time. That is one part I am seeing, and I am at the moment trying to understand that the amount of interest that should be there, it is missing out in the market. Why is it so, and how do we actually get people understand it, apart from bringing them, educate them, bring to them the right type of opportunity that is there?
I mean, that's a very good point. So I think one of the issues is, you know, as a business owner, especially if it's an owner-centric business, which many small businesses are, you know, the break point to go from a tribal business to a corporate business is between 25 and 30 staff. So if you look at the psychology of leadership, you can manage a team of about 25 people on a tribal basis. It's done by corporate experience. It's done by one-to-one connection. So you can hold together a group of 25 people through tribal leadership. Beyond that, you have to start putting into place plans and procedures, processes, corporate management structures, and that will take you up to about 150. So you can manage 150 people through a corporate or a business operating system. And then beyond 150, you then need to get really corporate, and you're looking at divisions and different management structures, whatever. But the majority of small businesses are still in that, you know, 25, 30 people ratio. So that's why it's still, the business is still functioning as a business, as an owner-centric business. Everything's going fine. The business owner may be struggling with that failed hockey curve type strategy, but they still haven't perceived that they're in that downward death spiral. So they're working in the business. They're trying to work on the business with not much success. They're busy on the day-to-day because they've built the business around them. They haven't given themselves the time to stop and raise their head up and look at what's happening. Okay, and they assume, the assumption by many business owners is, I've put my life's work into this business. I've sweated over this 40, 50, 60 hours a week for the last 15 or 20 years. This is worth a lot to me. When I come to sell it, it will be worth a lot to whoever buys it, because my perception of the value and your perception of the value are completely different. I'm thinking about the 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears that I put in to keep that business going. You're thinking about, if I'm going to put $1 million down here, am I going to get return on my investment? Two very, very different mindsets. And that's why the business owners are not seeing the risk that's rapidly coming towards them.
Okay. From an Indian point of view, from Indian people who have the money and who can invest, how do you think, David, is that what is the right fit for them? Because see, if it's an individual, then an individual who has money but may not have a big business existing here, but may find a right fit. But he will have a certain degree of apprehension of getting into a business, that too in a faraway land. The second is that people who are in established businesses, who have right fit in terms of companies there. Now, how do they get that confidence that moving out or whatever money is there with them is not at risk? This is where you come in. You have got certain degree of expertise. You have got a huge, background which can bring in a lot of confidence as a chartered engineer working in a submarine. So how does it work out for them?
So there would be two things I would recommend. If somebody is serious about making an investment in the US and they don't have a prior business, what they must do is get a management team in the country or in the area they want to invest, who they can then work with to help them with the discovery, with the analysis, with the decision making. because trying to manage something like this from several thousand miles away is not going to work. You need that on the ground understanding.
Yeah. Right.
So for a serious Indian investor, they should establish a local corporation with a management office, somebody that is a trusted agent for them, and then connect with a management company that will help them go through the process of discovering a business, identifying whether it's a good business to buy, making that initial purchase, and then and before that, the investor really needs to think through: do they want to flip the business for a fast profit, or are they buying long-term value? Because that would change the strategy as to which would be an ideal business to start with.
Okay.
For the Indian company that's already in business in a particular niche, then obviously it would make a lot of sense for them to leverage their own experience, their own skill set. And one of the things in that situation, which also can increase value, is labor arbitrage. So if you already have a company that's doing business, and especially where it's in information and intelligence, you could then set up your local operation, look for a business that's in the same niche or the same service area that you are currently serving, buy that business, and then one of the early optimizations would be labor arbitrage. And then you can look at expanding that business, again, either to simply create a local footprint to bring business back to the Indian parent company, or you can use that for business flipping. If you've already got an existing company that's viable and successful in India, I would suggest business flipping is probably not your best strategy. Buy a business that then gives you a footprint in the US, and then use that to exploit labor arbitrage would be a sensible strategy, in my opinion.
Great. So my final question here is, David, how can people who want to do business with the USA get somebody like you to handhold them? How do they contact you?
My LinkedIn profile. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and also I think I gave you my email address. I'm more than happy if anybody wants to connect me by email. We can have a chat and just explore the opportunities. But the point I would make is, we are seeing this market heat up, so people are becoming aware of the opportunity, and a 47% increase in business valuation between 2021 and 2022 is clear indication that this market is now heating up.
Great. I'll include some of the information that you shared with me onto the YouTube description, so that people are able to click there and reach you in that manner. Obviously, your LinkedIn page is there, so that too will be there. So with this lot of learning and information, it's a wrap on this edition of the KJ Masterclass.